This is Kelly here from Horror Rewind, and we are at the Women in Horror Film Festival. I am talking to Trista and David from the film Ruin Me. So first of all, would you mind introducing yourselves and then tell us what you did on the film?
Sure. So I am Trista Bissett, and I am the co-writer, executive producer, and editor.
And I'm David Hendelman, executive producer and production designer.
Okay, great. And so Ruin Me is a film that you guys have been branding yourselves just perfectly. I just love the t-shirts, the backpacks, everything. Can you tell us a little bit about the film?
Sure. So Ruin Me is about a group of 6 people who go out into the woods for an event called Slasher Sleepout, which is an extreme haunt. It's an overnight thing where they camp out in tents and people scare them all night long, and something goes wrong.
Okay. Have you ever been to one of these extreme haunt situations yourself?
Yes. Preston, who's the director and co-writer, we have done several of these events together. There's one in LA that's called Blackout, where you go in by yourself. You have to sign a waiver. The actors are allowed to touch you, and it's like a 20-minute experience where you're going through this like weird thing, and you have to interact with the actors. And everyone's experience is a little bit different. There are some places where you can choose different options of which way you want to go, or depending on what you say to the actors, that will take you into a different room. And then we also did one called the Great Horror Campout, which is in Los Angeles. And you do camp out overnight in Griffith Park. And they had sort of a scavenger hunt element to it. And there are monsters wandering around, like I got kidnapped by a van full of clowns, stuff like that. So they were really fun, but they weren't scary because you're aware the whole time that this is a safe place. The actors are not really going to hurt you. And so we started thinking, well, but what if one of these things went wrong and people were hurt?
It's such a great premise for a film, and I love the concept. So what's the name of the camp? What does your shirt say? Oh, it says Slasher Sleepout. And is that the name of the sleepout? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see it. It's showing today at 5 p.m. And so we'll maybe talk again after tonight and get some feedback from people and everything. But what were the challenges in making this movie or in filming this movie, and what would you say the victories have been?
So challenges, most of it was filmed in the woods, so there are the challenges associated with that, bugs and nighttime, and so that was a definite challenge, and there were some technical challenges as well, which after seeing the film I can get into more detail about. So I would say those were the biggest challenges, and putting it all together for a 15-day shoot was quite a challenge too, because the film is 87 minutes long, and we did it in 15 days. We shot it in Michigan in September, and it's typically quite rainy, so we got very lucky that we only had to film inside for a half of one day. The rest of it was all shot outside.
Oh, I know. It's kind of creepy. There's some Exorcist, I'm assuming that's Exorcist action happening across the way from us here. And then just talking about horror films in general, can you talk about maybe some of your inspirations or some horror movies that you liked growing up? What did you use to rent? Did you used to rent things on VHS? Are you as old as I am? I don't know. Okay. But our podcast, we talk about the things that we used to go to Blockbuster and get and watch over and over. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So I have to say, first of all, that the director, Preston, is a huge Friday the 13th fan. So a lot of the stuff comes from that, like stylistically and in terms of the story, got to use some of the tropes and things. Yeah. As far as my favorites...
do you remember the first horror movie?
I don't think I remember the first one that I saw, but the one that stuck in my mind the most was The Gate.
Oh, okay.
I was watching it at a neighbor's house, and I was like, why is the mom letting us watch this? This is like not okay. Because there's like scary little things running around, and there's a part where like the guy, there's like an eye that sprouts up in his hand, and he stabs it with a piece of glass, and like, yeah, that stuck with me forever.
Okay. Do you have some horror movie memories?
I do. Not as many as Trista. Horror movies have never been my favorite genre, but I do remember a couple in particular. Rosemary's Baby is one which terrified me, and The Omen. I think demonic things tend to really freak me out.
We were talking about that yesterday. Like, for some reason, that genre, it's just, I don't know. Who are your inspirations, filmmaker-wise or actor-wise, writer-wise, who do you like to watch, read, get inspiration from?
Let's see. I'm going to go the route of going like specific movies rather than specific people. Some of the ones that I have really loved are The Strangers. Yeah. That one is just, it's so well written. It's character-based. I love things that are character-based. And it takes some twists that you don't expect that are very dark in personal ways, not just in like, you know, the typical scary horror ways. Dead Ringers is my very favorite horror movie, and I love Orphan, Jaws, Session 9. Have you seen that one? That one is it's a little indie movie, and I actually forget the ending every time, and so it's like watching it for the first time over again. And I've seen it several times, and that one's just, it's really fun. Scream, I love.
And what do you? It's hard to talk about the film without giving anything away because I don't want to be spoiled. But what do you hope people take away from after they see your film? What are you hoping for as they walk out of the theater?
I'm hoping that people are surprised by the direction that it takes. I think it goes to a place that people are not expecting, and I hope that they love that.
Yeah, I agree with Trista, and I think that I hope they're scared, and I hope that they also find that the film is beautiful to look at and to listen to as well. And
So we are very active on Facebook and Twitter. That's where we post all of our updates on our festival screenings. Our Facebook page is Ruin Me Movie 2017, and our Twitter is Ruin Me Movie. And so far we just have festivals. We're going to be playing all over the U.S. Through about the second week in November. Okay. And we'll keep updating it as more dates and times come in.
What's happening next for you? What's your next project?
So the next project Preston and I are writing right now, it's called After the Summer. It's about a girl who's in college, and she's gone to the same summer town every year because her parents have a summer house there. And there's been a series of murders in this small town, and she lies to her parents and says she's going to go back to college, but she decides to actually stay in this town after the summer to investigate the murders.
That is very cool. I like that idea. I'm excited. And you're writing it right now, so do you have a filming date set or anything yet?
So we would love to be filming late summer, early fall of 2018.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But, it depends on the funding and getting everything lined up, so we will see.
Okay, awesome. Well, I will talk to you both again later, either after the film or maybe tonight at the after party. So thank you so much. So we were able to watch at the Women in Horror Film Festival today. We were able to watch Ruin Me, and then immediately after was the award ceremony, and Ruin Me won Best Feature. Congratulations. So first of all, tell us about winning the award and everything like that. What was going through your mind as you went on the stage?
I guess I thought I would be a little more eloquent. I feel like I stood up there and was like, I don't know. But it was really good to win an award. It feels good. See, I'm doing it again where I like don't even know what to say. And
Is there anybody you want to thank who you get to thank or anything like
yes,
that?
actually, I felt very silly afterwards because I did not say thank you to our director, Preston, and our other two producers, Rebecca and Aaron. The five of us were the team that have been working together since the beginning, and I wish they had been here because they would have had such a good time, and they should have been up there with us.
And I'm thrilled that Women in Horror has honored Rue and me with this award. It's amazing to be able to honor the contributions of so many wonderful, talented people. Preston DeFrancis, our director, Rebecca Stone, our producer, Trista, the writer and producer and editor, Aaron, producer, Marcienne, wonderful lead actress, Matt Delapina, also wonderful actor, and all of the other wonderful actors who contributed to the film. The award helps us feel validated for all of their wonderful, talented contributions.
Awesome. And something I want to mention, I met your composer last night, and I noticed the music. It was something another fellow audience member said, you don't notice music unless it's really bad or really good. And she said everything was perfect. The music was perfect, and the composition, it just felt like it just got you exactly where you need to be in the film. So we were very impressed with that. And now that we have seen the film, we can actually get in here. So I'm not going to give any spoilers away, or no, I don't think we will. I was going to say I want to ask some questions, but I'm going to keep for this, and I'll edit out anything that I accidentally say. But what I wanted to say is that the movie gets you thinking and your mind going in so many different roads and possibilities that even now, coming out of the movie, we were like, but I wonder if what happened really happened, or if it didn't. I don't know. And that's really vague, and I understand. So when you were writing it, did you know clearly what the ending was going to be and the road to get there, or did it ever change or develop? Tell us about your writing process.
Yes, the ending definitely did change. It's kind of hard to talk about without giving spoilers. But something that sort of drives me crazy in some movies is when they play with the is it real or is it not real? And sometimes it just gets like so crazy that it could never possibly be real. And because it's not real, there are no consequences for that in real life. So it's important to me to keep it grounded enough that there are real life consequences for your actions, whether you're imagining it or not imagining it. There is something to it that must be real.
I want to ask Lisa if you have any questions or any thoughts about the film.
Horror Friends, I watched a full-length horror movie with more than one person, and it was terrifying. What I really liked about it, I can just look to you and tell you this is fun, it's a really good movie. And it also scares you. We get both elements. And what I really appreciated was the character development in the beginning. We get to know these people and really like these people. And sometimes I feel like they're stereotypical characters in the horror films I've seen or shied away from. But I really felt like these were all really real people and really genuine people. And so when things might start going wrong, it's really upsetting because I actually care about these people and I feel connected and they feel real. Yeah. And so I really appreciated that. But at the end, Meg was like, what do you think? And I'm like, I can't talk right now. The film was called Ruin Me. And I was just like, I'm ruined. I just need to go and hide. The idea of like an escape room or like a panic room, I'm just like, nope. No, I'm pretty okay. I'm pretty okay to I could watch it maybe, but it's a great, scary thing. And I agree with what you said earlier, the consequences that we may find at the end, because I never felt everything was safe. and that was terrifying as an audience member. And this is ridiculous, but something I really, really appreciated about this film, and that might say something about me, is that our leading female character went to the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
You guys, like, this is a big deal for me. Like, I watched.
You never see it, like, but it's something. If you never see it, but it's something that you keep thinking about, like, oh wait, when and where are these people going to the bathroom? And we got to see it in this film.
And I won't say it, but like, there's such a brilliant moment surrounding how women's cycles work and how it connects to this film, and it was such a beautiful, oh shit moment, but not with shit. Because we're talking about the bathroom. But like, I just have this thing. I was telling Meg, like, it makes me crazy when I read things like The Hunger Games or whatever, and I'm like, really, you're gonna make me believe that you've been in a dome for a week and not gone to the bathroom? I call BS. But anyway, so that was a trivial thing that I was really appreciative of and I think that helps me connect to characters. And I really appreciated the humanity of it. So, yay!
And I will speak to that a little bit. Yeah, a lot of things fall prey to the 24 syndrome, where Jack Bauer never eats, sleeps, or pees. So yeah, I think it is important to see people doing normal things that they would do. And sometimes we joke that maybe we should have called this movie Don't Pee in the Woods. Because when you pee, bad things happen.
I wanted to ask you about filming. You mentioned earlier in the interview that you filmed it over 15 days. I wanted to know, and you said Michigan, but could you tell us some specifics of where in Michigan and some things? Because sometimes the cocktails are based on location and ingredients that are native to that area. So tell us a little bit about location.
Sure. So we filmed in Muskegon, Michigan, which is sort of a summer town in western Michigan. It's right on the lake there. And we filmed after Labor Day because that's when most people get out of town. So there were not nearly as many people in town. Things were cheaper for us because of that. And Muskegon is my favorite place in the world because that's where my family's from. It's always been a dream of mine to make a real film there because I grew up making films with my cousins and my sister there. So this was a big deal to me personally on an emotional level. Is that enough about the town?
She's going to do the rest of the research for the drink thing.
And we did one day of reshoots of pickups in Northern California, Marin County. I don't know if that influences the drink, but it may surprise you to know that some of this may be a spoiler, so you may have to cut some of it out. But some of the beach scenes were actually shot in someone's backyard around the pool in Northern California.
What?
Yes, particularly where she's cresting the hillside and looking over at what's hanging from the post. Yeah, they were, pretty amazing. Yeah, the magic of film.
So I was going to mention too, I was like, I knew before I saw the film that it was shot in Michigan, and I'm like, they're definitely on Lake Michigan because I live on Lake Superior, or right near it, and that is exactly what our beach looks like. And you know, people do photo shoots down there with that grass and everything, and people ask, where were you? By the ocean? It's like, no, that's a Great Lake. That's what they look like. And
we had to buy plants that looked like the beach grass so that it would match. And we shot from the ground looking up toward the sky so that you couldn't tell that you weren't at the beach still.
Now, I have a question about casting and how you found all your actors. Where did you cast, and were they local? Did you know them beforehand? How did you go about the casting process?
One of our producers, Aaron Galligan-Sturl, is a Broadway actor. He lives in New York, so he has tons of connections to actors and acting schools. And so he put out some casting calls on the internet. He got like a bazillion submission videos, and he had to wade through all of them, and he cut it down to about 5 potential people for each role, and then he sent us those videos. We selected our favorites out of that and then brought those people in for in-person interviews. And we had several of the smaller roles were people that we cast locally in Muskegon. We put out an ad in the local paper and just said, like, come on down and audition, and like 200 people showed up.
Can we ask who, like, maybe one or two of the locals were as characters?
Yes, yeah. So the host at the beginning, the guy who gets out of the van, he's local. Yes, he's great. And his name is Rocky Rector. Then Tom Harriman, who plays the escaped mental patients, he was local. He's actually a theater professor at the local community college there.
Director of humanities.
Yeah. And he's a really nice guy, and we've seen him several times since we've been back to Michigan, and we do little reunions.
Trent.
Yes, Trent played the cop. He was local. Traver is one of the masked men. He's also a stunt double. Jerry Maxwell, another masked man. Tim Taylor, a masked man. And Alex Galick, who plays the kid who pulls up the thing and says, "Slash your sleep out, man." He's from Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
A lot of our PAs were from Muskegon as well.
Oh, and one more story. Chris Hill, who plays Larry, has been a friend of mine and Preston's for many years, and he's worked in some of our other projects when we did short films. And the role was actually written for him.
Yes.
We did not tell him that, and we still made him audition. But I mean, the whole time we were writing it, we were like, Chris Hill is going to play this part, and he's so good.
What do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just watch a film and you think, like, did the actor come on set and influence the character so much that it just sort of became their own, or was this Taylor created for that person? Because I feel like rare when you see someone that's so completely natural and perfect for a role. So that's cool. That's exciting.
Yeah. I love to see that when roles are written for actors or actresses. Do you go by actor or actress?
No, either. If it's like happy to be employed.
Yes. Okay. So I love it because you can write to their best traits, you know.
Can you remind us what the safe word was?
Aloha. Welcome to Hawaii.
Nice.
I asked because that's going to be the name of your drink. Surprise. Because Lisa would have tapped out immediately. She would have taken 2 steps out of that van and been like, bye.
No, that's so clever and perfect, and I can't wait to drink it. So we're here now with the composer for Ruin Me, Holly Amber Church, and we were just gushing about how amazing and perfect the music is. And
Thank you.
can you tell us a little bit about how you became a composer, first of all, and then about your process?
Sure, yeah. I didn't want to be a lawyer. My parents were sad about that, or a doctor. They want me to do that too, but then I passed out getting a shot. So they knew that wouldn't work out, and then I tended to like music. So I had piano lessons from an early age, and kind of took to that. They couldn't get me off the piano. And around that time I started really liking film score, so it just kind of all came together, and started writing things on the piano. And then when I was like 15 or 16, I wrote my first piece for the orchestra, and hearing it like played back, like that was like amazing, you know. It was my first time like staying up all night, not sleeping, and realizing what a composer's life was like. But it was worth it to hear it played back. And so that's kind of how it started. And then I went on and got a music degree, went to USC's film scoring program, and started doing student films, and it just went from there. Yeah.
So tell us about the process, how you score a film, and what is it like? Does it come to you immediately? Is it I can't imagine, because we all have different talents and different ways our brains work. And I was a choreographer for a while, and it just makes sense, how your body will move. But what's this process like?
It's hard to explain, actually. It's just sort of innate. I always like to watch the film a few times. If I can, I like to get the script ahead of time so I can really start thinking. And, it's really like thinking, what is the story? Who are the characters? Like, what's important? And I like to sit maybe for a couple days and just come up with theme ideas and a sound. Like, what are the instruments that work in this movie? So I like to treat every movie individually. Like, I want to have kind of a different sound for every movie, So that's pretty much how I start. And then once I get themes that I like and kind of the sound palette or instrument palette, then I'll start writing to picture, And usually I'll just start from the beginning and go through, and I discover a lot of things as I go, And then sometimes I'll go back and, I found something later that I like that works earlier or something. Yeah.
I just think it's amazing, because my brain does not work that way, and I love it. Do you have anything to ask or say about the music?
I'm cheating because I sort of asked this before, but there's some really haunting. I'm glad they laughed at that. No. Okay, I would like to ask again. There's what felt like bells or chimes, and there was this like very, very eerie melody that kept coming through, and I was like, what is this instrument? Could you speak again to some of the instruments you used?
Yeah, I ended up, this is a very hybrid score, which I think works well in a lot of horror. It's some synth elements and some orchestral elements, and for this one I used a lot of like the melody, especially in the beginning, like metallic sounds, like gamelan, some bowls, some interesting sounds, and they still are very melodic, but they don't just sound like your normal orchestral thing that you would hear. So it gave it a different feeling, kind of. And I liked, a lot of it was used like with the puzzles. So it made me think of like the locks and that kind of stuff, and it was an organic sound, but again, not something that's totally familiar to everybody. And then, a lot of orchestral things, and then some synth paddy things too, just to kind of give it a unique feel.
I have one more question, and you may have already covered this earlier, but because we are at the Women in Horror Film Festival, I would love to hear from, sorry David, but I'd love to hear from Tristan Hawley. What is it like? You're living in LA, you're doing this, you're making films. What is it like to be a female writer, producer, or a woman composer? What are some champions? What are some challenges in the industries for you? Who wants to go first?
I have never felt any sort of bias being a woman. I mean, maybe it's because I was never taught that was a thing. I didn't grow up thinking that people were better than me, or that they could do more than me. In fact, I think I liked I was often the only girl in my film classes, and I kind of liked being the underdog, like the one who stands out when they excel because people weren't expecting that. And when people ask, what is it like to be a woman in film, I don't know how else to be. I am what I am, and I do what I do, and if you don't like it, then that's too bad.
Yeah, I echo a lot of her thoughts, yeah. It is, I don't know that I've ever felt bias either, and thinking like, when I was little, like, all the composers that influenced me were all men, and I was like, I'm going to be a composer, and I guess I never thought about, I also wanted to be a Ghostbuster, who, in the 80s, they were also all men, so I don't know that it ever occurred to me that I couldn't do any of these things. And I think I've had a lot of opportunities from men, like male directors, that were just like, oh, you're a good composer. There is, statistically, the numbers are really low of women composers getting the big opportunities. They did do some research. An article came out like last month that said we're 2% of all, 2% of all composers getting the big opportunities. Like, I think that's on the studio level. Like, only 2% of all studio level things are scored by women. So they said we are way behind every other creative lead thing in films on that level. So there is a problem. I don't know why it's this way, but there are tons of good female composers out there, and there's an Alliance for Women Film Composers that started last year, and we've kind of banded together, and it's more of a just to show people that we exist, and when you think of composers, they can be girls too, so that it's sort of I feel like I do have to maybe work a little bit harder now, because statistically it is going to be harder for me, so.
I wanted to ask you to, because I asked the other two earlier, what would you like to plug? If there's anywhere you want to direct people to find your work or see your work, and what are your upcoming projects?
Okay, you can find my work on my website. It's hollyamberchurch.com. I've got music there, video samples. I've got a couple, probably more horror movies coming up, which is awesome since I love them. I have a good drama coming up, a biopic with a director out of New Orleans that I've worked with a couple times. David Dubose is his name. It's about the author John Kennedy Toole that wrote A Confederacy of Dunces. It's a story behind him. I don't know if you know it, but it's a really cool story. And it's got some amazing actors in it, and that should be filming pretty soon. Yeah.
The other question I asked them earlier is, what was your first horror movie? If you have a favorite, or your influences?
Oh boy, my first horror movie. It was probably like Disney's Halloween Treat or something, if that counts, or the Ichabod Crane cartoon or something. I don't know. I remember Poltergeist when I was little too, and that was cool. And Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I remember that one. Yeah, lots of good ones. What was the other part?
And any favorites or influences?
Oh, okay. Well, I love Psycho. I just love Psycho. Bernard Herrmann's probably one of my other favorite composers. I love that score. I actually do like the Conjuring films. I think they're really good. Yeah, I kind of like it all. Yeah, you would be really scared. Yeah. There's all kinds of good ones out there. Yeah.
All right.
David, could you tell us, for so many people, I feel like you make a career and you're just like Holly was saying, I'm going to be a composer, I'm going to do this. I haven't heard from Trista if you started writing immediately. I've been acting since I was 12. When did you get into the entertainment horror industry, and what else do you do?
Well, I got into producing horror films 2 years ago when shortly after I met Trista, and discovered that she was such a talented writer, and met Preston and wanted to participate in their project. And my day job, fortunately, allowed me to do that. I'm a medical doctor, anesthesiologist by day, and also a flight instructor, teaching people how to fly airplanes and helicopters. And actually producing wound up being a labor of love, and also one of the hardest jobs that I've ever done, because it's a job that never ends. When you're a doctor or a flight instructor, you have defined hours to your workday. When you're a producer, it's a 24/7 job, and there's always something that comes up and something else to do, and that's how I found producing to be. But what's really enjoyable for me about producing is the ability to participate in a project that winds up being so beautiful, and where so many people collaborate to make something work and something look so fantastic and sound so fantastic, and to be able to say that you're a part of that is a fantastic joy and makes it all worthwhile.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, and we cannot wait for you to hear this episode, and we can't wait for you listeners to see this movie. It's called Ruin Me, and it will ruin you. Where can people see Ruin Me?
Well, Ruin Me is going to many festivals around the country, but the next one that we're going to be appearing at is Screamfest in Hollywood, California, at Grauman's Chinese Theater on Monday, October 16th at 7 p.m.
And we will have a lot of the cast and crew attending that festival because that is our hometown. So I hope that people can come out and meet everybody that worked on the film. Everyone is so nice, and we just love talking to people about it.
Great. All right, thank you so much. So, Meg, tell us your thoughts about Ruin Me.
Okay, so something that I really liked about this movie, and I don't want to give too much away, so spoiler alert, but I'm going to be careful not to say too much, is, I love complicated female protagonists, and I felt like with our main character Alex in this movie, it's really unexpected what her backstory is. She comes across as kind of a typical final girl, so I really enjoyed getting into sort of her backstory, and for me that always makes a horror movie more satisfying.
Can you talk to us about some of the specifics and without spoiling the movie? You recently did an escape room. Would you do something like this? Would you go on a haunted camping trip?
I did do an escape room, and I overthought everything. I was taking things way too seriously that were not important. So I don't think I'm an escape room expert. I kind of would. I don't know. I was watching it and I was like, it would be kind of fun to do a horror movie sort of camp out. When I heard the filmmakers tell me the concept of the movie, I thought in the back of my mind, why didn't I think of that? That's amazing. So I think it's a great concept, and I feel like it's got to become a thing soon. I don't know. Would you do it?
I totally would. And this is one of my band camp stories. It's not actual band camp. I'm just saying that for American Pie reference. Yeah. Is that the name of the movie? Yeah. Okay, gosh. But I was in my third year of camp, so I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and there was this thing that you could bid on. They would never do this at camp now. You could bid, you literally put money towards it for your cabin. We bid and won a kidnapping. What? So these two male counselors, we paid to have this done. 2 male counselors came in masks and kidnapped all the girls in our cabin, and we were blindfolded in the back of a van.
Sexy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't, no. And then they drove us out to the middle of nowhere and then told us ghost stories and then brought us back. But we literally paid to be kidnapped. They would never do that now. No. And there was nothing, sexy about it. Meg. But we totally, and I would totally do this. So there are things like this, because Trista was saying, she has been on things where they kidnap you and you're alone for hours, and these actors can touch you and you can't touch them.
Okay, so let's start the horror rewind.
Ultimate
experience. What do you guys think we should have in it? Should Jason be there? Should it be a camp experience? Are there ringers? There are people, plants, that are there to kind of act. What could we do? Well, okay, let me think. We could have a whole Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We could do a cannibal plot. We could do a different plot every year. I'm looking at Kelly and we're just we have figured out our passion in life, and it's to completely rip off Ruin Me.
But in real life.
And you're gonna die. Yeah, I think this is a great idea. So stay tuned for the horror rewind experience.
Coming soon to a city near you. And Lisa will make you a beverage, so if you need to get a little drunk, before you go in. But speaking of beverage, Lisa, tell us what you've created for this week.
Hi, horror friends. Lisa here. And I'm really excited about this drink, everyone, because I made it through this movie. We're making a drink today inspired by Ruin Me, which ruined me. And I'm really excited to make this drink because I got to know some of the people very much involved, and so this is my dedication to them. Trista, David, let's make a drink. So for this drink, I would like to call it Aloha, Welcome to Hawaii, which is a safe word if you wanted to get out of the slasher sleepaway. And I would have tapped out right away. I would be like, aloha, welcome to Hawaii, get me out, I can't do this. So let's do this. For this drink, we're going to need a bourbon. I wanted to start with bourbon because David and I sort of bonded with it. It's a thing people love. I chose Old Forester because this film takes place in a forest. It felt right. You're going to need some Cointreau, a lovely orange liqueur. I was also very inspired by orange. It's a prominent feature. You're going to need some Agnostra bitters. And finally, some Werner's ginger ale. It is one of the longest produced sodas in all of America, and it comes from Michigan, where this film was made. So, also, you will need 1/8 of an orange for garnish. If you can find a fake finger, let's make this drink. All right, into our horror rewind shaker, we're going to put 1.5 ounces of the bourbon, about 1/4 ounce of the Cointreau, and we are going to take this giant chunk of orange and squeeze it in. For all it's worth, if a little bit falls in, it's fine. We're gonna strain that out. Finally, 1 single dash of bitters. Top it up. We're gonna use our coupe, if we remember our coupe from Ectofoam a while ago. Go ahead and pour this out in here, and I love it because it's this just light, subtle orange color. Get this out of the way for you, and finally we're going to top. You never want to shake anything that includes carbonation, so that's why we're adding this in last. We're going to top the Werner's right in there, a little bubbly. Finally, go ahead, grab a little wedge, a little finger. You can number it. This also works as like a drink tag, so if you make them all for your friends, you'll know whose is which, who belongs to what. It's like a gentler old fashioned in some ways. It's also like this game where sometimes you think it's just fun, and maybe if you have too many, it won't be fun. So maybe, enjoy responsibly. Aloha, welcome to Hawaii, friends. Cheers.